And we're back.
It's been a minute.
It's been 3 weeks.
Something like that.
Unacceptable.
Yeah, can't let it happen again.
We have dozens of people relying on us for this information.
Yes, tens of people are waiting on our every word.
Well, all right. What's been going on the last 3 weeks at the fort? Let's talk about our program, how it's been going, what we're doing.
Yeah. So working mainly, I think big picture on power. If you wanted to just put it into one word.
The training phase is called the Power Project.
Yeah, so there you go. It's right in the name. Give it away. And I think then the subheadings are different speed components. So speed, strength, and strength, speed.
Yeah. Speed as a huge component of power.
Yeah.
Power being rate of force development.
Yeah. Yeah.
How fast you can go from nothing to peak something.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I think we're implementing power really well, and I think our clients are taking to it.
Yeah.
But still, I think a lot of people are asking, like, why we do it. Why is this relevant? Why is it relevant for general population? I get it if you're Usain Bolt.
Right.
I get it if you're a professional football player.
Sure.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Why does everybody need power training? Or why would we have our full general population membership participate in this power program?
Well, my answer, I'm curious to hear what your answer is.
Yeah.
My answer is, if I had to boil it down to just one thing in particular, it's that power, the ability to move quickly or move weights quickly or move your own weight quickly, decays with age faster than any other strength quality. So if you don't train it, you will lose it, and it's very difficult to get back. Not to get like super nerdy, but the general consensus is like it's very easy for type 2, which is your explosive muscle fibers, to turn into type 1, which is like more of your endurance fibers. And I realize this is an oversimplification for people who are going to like scream at me in the comments. So it's very easy for power things to become endurance things. Very, very difficult to go the other way. So if you don't keep those muscle fibers that are based on power, if you don't practice moving quickly, you will lose it with age. And that is not something you want to lose with age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree and totally agree with what you said. And just to add on to it, piggyback on it, power to me is training one rep. Like of anything, you are training one rep, and you can't really truly train power if you're doing a whole bunch of reps, if you're not giving yourself adequate rest, if you're not extremely focused on that one rep, because you're training your ability to max out your athleticism and your execution in an instant, right? And that requires full attention. You have to be in the state of mind to be able to train that way.
Yeah.
Going back to Usain Bolt, they said he could only really train his best 100-meter sprint twice a day.
Yeah.
He needed that much rest in between peak efforts to even be close.
Yeah, and I would assume that he's not even training full out hundreds every day.
No,
probably
he's not.
Yeah.
He's training his mechanics. He's training his injury prevention. He's training, reps and energy systems and, training isolated parts of his execution body. But very rarely is he even able to put it all together and max out that effort. And I think that's why people tend to neglect power. They tend not to train that way. And they do it for years, and it deteriorates. And they're not able to execute. They're not able to do a box jump. They're not able to sprint without popping a hamstring or at all. And then that continues to deteriorate to where you can't move quickly or athletically enough to keep yourself from falling down. And then you become feeble.
Yeah.
Keeping up your power training is keeping up your youth, your athleticism.
For sure.
And we aren't trying to train people for the Olympics. We aren't training them for the NFL, but we are trying to preserve every last bit of the power that they have as much as possible as they progress in age.
Right.
If we are really trying to, create like the most kick-ass 100-year-old people on the planet, we have to consistently touch power, train power, and educate people on why it's important.
For sure. And before people like freak out, it's like, there's very few people training at the level of an Usain Bolt or a Lasha Talakadze or somebody who's like that remarkable. Like most of us can touch power and get close to our maximum power weights way more often than those people can.
Yeah.
If you're if you are, the more skilled you are, the more you are at closer to world record weights or world record speeds, the more tactical you have to be, and the less times you could switch that on. I know probably people who aren't like steeped in strength training would probably think the opposite. It's like, oh, they're good at it, they can do it all the time. It's actually quite the opposite. The better you are at it, kind of the more cautious you have to be with it. You know, somebody like me who's slow could do 100 repeats all day and would be fine. I just don't have that much capability. When you have that much capability, that's when you have to be a little bit more careful with it. So if you're watching this wondering, like, should I do like just 2 power cleans a week? Like, no, probably not. But if you're Lasha, you should probably do 2 of your heaviest power cleans maybe every 10 days, just because your not heavy power cleans are still very heavy.
And for those that don't know, Lasha is the greatest Olympic weightlifter in the world.
Right. I mean, probably.
And maybe ever.
Yeah. With weights, that's probably like the most pure indication of power that we have.
Yeah, if you just want to see an amazing human being and just about as good as any human being can express power, look up Lasha.
Talakadze is his name. He's from the country of Georgia.
Cool.
Yeah, he's in a sport full of people with insane capabilities. He's the most insane.
And I'd like to talk about him just a little bit. He is so impressive because he never misses lifts. Mm-hmm. He always makes it look easy. And I think there's lessons there for all of us in our training.
Yeah. He's very tactical. His coach, a guy named Georgi Adzanidze, is very tactical. A lot of feedback with technique, even though this guy's like the best ever, still gets a lot of feedback. And they know exactly when to push, when to pull back, know exactly what weights they're doing. Like it's none of this is by accident. Like he does not miss. I can't tell you the last time that he's missed a lift in competition, and he doesn't even have that much competition, which would make you think that maybe he'd get lazy with it. But yeah, he's a 6-for-6 guy. Like every time he walks out there.
Yeah, I'm very proud of the way that the culture of our community trains. I'm very impressed with everybody in the gym always. But if there was anything that I see regularly where generally people could be better, it's use lighter weights, do it much more precisely and much more focused. And Lasha is one of the very best athletes in the world. And you can watch him train and he's not touching those max weights that he lifts in competition in training. But the weights that he hits or does, he does them perfectly every single time. He's tactically executing every single time, perfecting the way that he does it.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to step up to those big weights, rarely, he executes, man. He never misses.
Yeah.
He's just trained himself.
Yeah, that's almost seems to be part of like the former, what would be called the former Soviet Union culture. Like those guys just don't miss weights. They step onto the platform not even knowing how to miss, and then they don't. The other thing I like about him is, besides the fact that he's such a technician, is he kind of breaks all the rules for like what would be considered like kind of typical sized weightlifter. Like most people think like, oh, you can't play basketball unless you're 7 feet tall. Like he's way longer, way taller, like not built like a typical weightlifter, and he's still the best. And I kind of like that he breaks those rules. That's interesting to me.
That's awesome.
Why do you think people don't like you mentioned before that you feel like if our population could do anything better, it's that they would not, overload the thing and do everything perfectly and not miss weights and be like a little bit more specific like that. What do you think is holding people back from doing that? Is it education? Is it ego? What do you think it is?
It's time horizon, what they see. It's the thought that you have to get better today or that it's going to happen today, rather that this is going to happen over 5 years or this is going to happen over 10 years. Or if you're really great, knowing that this is going to happen over 20, 30, 40 years, really looking at the time horizon. And when you know, okay, I don't have to be better today. I have to learn today in a way that's going to help me learn and be a little bit better tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And the further that you can see your time horizon, the more that you've accepted this training practice as your identity. Because if you see, I'm going to be doing this 30 years from now, that's who you are. That's what you're going to be doing. But it's also a huge relief in that, like right now, I don't have to push the weights. I have to be better at an incline dumbbell bench press or whatever it is that you're moving. And when you accept like, okay, I got 10,000, 20,000 more days of practice here, like it allows you the freedom to work on the way that you're doing it now without the pressure of getting to the place.
Right.
And I wish I could instill that. It's one of those things I could talk to people. I'm talking about it right now. You've got to arrive to that place on your own.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly, like, it took me a long time. Like when I first got into the weight room, like I wanted to see how many plates I could strap to my waist and you know, do dips with and all that other stuff. And there's value in that. I do think.
And there's still a time and a place for that. And that is, it's important to see your limits from time to time.
Right.
But knowing when you're training, there's no huge rush right now. We aren't training for the Olympics 4 years from now.
Right.
Or, you know, in a certain period of time. Like we're training to continue to be able to train.
Right.
And if we are preparing us to be able to train, we have to train really well so it doesn't break down, so that we continue to grow and improve at what we're doing.
Right. And if you're somebody who's listening to this and like you have a college football scholarship on the line, then I would say, now is the time.
No,
like you got to get it done right now.
I'm not speaking to everyone.
Right. But if you're a person who just trains for general strength qualities, for longevity, to feel good, to be healthy, to get stronger,
and to enjoy the process,
then you have to think long term. I mean, get really good at training. That should be your number one priority. The weight on the bar does not impress us.
Yeah,
we're moving really well. Does
we're both. I just finished this book, but you're reading this book, Wanting, by Luke Burgess.
Mm-hmm.
Highly recommend it. It's a great book. It's about intuitively like what human beings want or how we learn what to want. And it's made me think an interesting question I wanted to ask you. What do you want from your training? And what would be good for people to want in their training, in your estimation?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like, so some of it is just real practicality, right? Like I want to maintain my strength. I want to maintain my ability to move. You know, I'm about to turn 50. Like these things are now like on my mind when they never were before. I want to maintain good body composition. Like those things are important to me. So those physical benefits, and I'm not necessarily looking to like lift my heaviest weights or anything like that, but like being able to still be strong, move well, have good body composition, all that leading to good health outcomes. I think all those things are related. So I think on the physical side, and then a little bit more on the emotional side, like I like the practice of training every day. I want to have a good experience while I am training. That's become more and more important to me. Like actually enjoying the act of training, like being around other like-minded people who I enjoy training with, who push me, who are willing to get after it. Like that the experience of it has become like more and more important as I move on. I mean, I don't have like huge social circles otherwise. So like my training groups and stuff like that are a good way for me to like interact with people. And that's kind of how I do it. I could be like a pretty like isolated or introverted person otherwise. So like I use the training to allow me to like interact with people. And that's really been like helpful and something that I look forward to and part of like a big part of what my training's become.
Yeah, that's, I mean, very worthy targets right there. Something that I've been thinking of lately for myself is I want to be able to remain composed in greater and greater types of stress and broader and varied types of stress. Yeah. So something that I think about a lot while I'm training is how much I'm fighting or resisting what is happening to my body. So like as if I'm on the ski or if I'm even under, you know, a heavy barbell, trying to train myself to be physiologically and psychologically composed, even though real stress is being imposed on me. And then that's crept into, you know, my whole life. And that feels like something that's worthy to want for me is being able to handle stress well. You know, so I often say to clients, like relax your face, keep your shit together. And I've been taking that very seriously in my training, because it's not that you want to make the stress less. in order to do that. But you do want to practice riding the line of where you really want to tense up, you want to resist it, you want to kind of fall apart. But you don't. You take a deep breath, relax your face, you allow yourself to accept the state you're in as a totally okay place to be, and to elevate your confidence that you can handle it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you and I speak to majority of like the potential or incoming clients, and it's become more the rule than the exception that part of the things that people are looking for is to use this kind of training to help manage their mental health or anxiety or stress, right? They're looking at exercise to help them because people are struggling with those problems in a big way. And it is proven that exercise and being in social groups and a lot of the other things that are part of our system, really help with those things. So I think what you're explaining is a very tactical way of addressing those problems. And what I like about it is it's just very systematic. It's there. It's not, a lot of people experience anxiety from the unknown or things that they can't manage, and that makes sense. But like, you get to know what 100-pound barbell feels like, and if you can kind of practice those things, it seems kind of like rudimentary or maybe a little bit on the nose. But like, I really think that like, it is a good beginning. It's a really good basis to be like, if I can manage this, if I can manage my state in this thing that is a little bit more predictable, ideally I'll be able to manage things that are less predictable. And I do think that that's a big component of what mental health can be for a lot of people who are just struggling with anxiety or just, have a hard time with the day to day.
Yeah, because and people that study stress and people that talk about stress will often say that like stress is it's a general thing. Like there's different types of stresses that can be imposed on your body, but generally the stress response reaction is very general, whether you're under attack from a bacterial infection or your girlfriend just broke up with you. Like the way that your body interprets those states is very general, and there is a lot of carryover in. If you regularly take ice baths and you get better at handling the stress of being very cold, to if you have a death in the family, like being good at stress does cross over and translate. And what we do when people come in here, they are training stress. Like you are putting yourself intentionally in an environment where we are going to impose stresses on you, and you're trusting us to impose the proper amount of stress for your level, for where you're at, and for what's going to be most useful for you. But doing it in a systematic fashion to where over time, and the longer you're training in these types of environments, you will be able to handle more and more stress, and be able to remain composed and clear-headed and be able to make conscious, actionable decisions in those states. Yeah. Whereas before, you might fall apart. You might lose composure, fall to the ground, lose your state of consciousness, not be able to handle it.
Right. I mean, stress is like necessary, right? When you can't avoid it, it's a necessary part of life. But there's two types of stress. There's eustress and there's de-stress. And de-stress, everybody knows. What that is.
I've heard of these concepts before.
Yeah.
Eustress.
Eustress is like positive stress. It's like
positive
stress. Yeah, stress from training.
Yeah.
Like you can manage it. It's predictable. You get positive adaptations from it. But certainly anybody who's put a barbell on their back knows that that is a type of stress. Mm. So eustress is like really important and very beneficial from a hormonal standpoint and an adaptation standpoint. It's a good practice to get into. And even with training, you can cross the line into de-stress, which is, when you're overtraining or doing things.
De-stress is like chronic stress.
Yeah. Like distress, like you're in distress.
And and there's no end in sight.
Yeah. It's like, that's when stress is like a problem.
That's when it's like a habit, or it's a never ending state where because the stress requires the recovery.
Yeah.
It's a cycle, right? Mm-hmm. You impose the stress, you allow an adaptation to that stress, and then you're able to handle the stress better the next time that stress happens generally. But if you stay stressed, if you never allow a recovery period, you don't you're not able to adapt. You don't have the room in it to adapt, grow, recover, and then be able to handle it better. It just sort of deteriorates, right?
Yeah. And I think more and more people find themselves in that state. I mean, I think it's just kind of apparent if you just kind of see what's going on, like, you know, again, more, you know, there's more of an awareness and more of a willingness to talk about it. And I think that also always brings it to the forefront. But I think people do feel a lot more stress and anxiety, not in a positive way. And ideally, you know, weight training or exercise or engaging in something physical can help you deal with it. I think a lot of people are looking to that. And I think that that's a worthwhile place to put your efforts. Not being a physician or a psychologist, but like that's my belief.
Work toward it. Don't run away from it.
Yeah.
Like stress is going to happen to you. It's going to come for you.
Necessary.
It's required.
Necessary. Yeah, it is necessary.
So being good at it is just a useful tool for life and for having a body, for being a human being. Yeah.
If there was no stress there, we would not be here. There would be no evolution. We would not exist. Like none of that would happen. Right. Like do not think that like, oh, a completely stress-free life is the way to go. It's not possible, and would not benefit you.
All right, let's cover like one more topic before we end. The phase that we're in, we're coming out of a power phase and we're going to be moving into a body composition phase.
Yes.
We're going to primarily be looking at body composition factors.
Correct.
As far as training goes and your years of experience, what are the qualities that we want to see in a training program that is prioritizing body composition as an effect of the program?
I think you need to look at a few things, which is one, like a lot of mechanical tension on specific muscles. I don't think, you know, most of the times for us, like tracking weights and making sure we're very specific and tactical with weights is like a very high priority. I think in this type of phase, it's not as much. I think we're just trying to accumulate a lot of volume, a lot of mechanical tension, some movement variety, but, you know, really thinking, you know, we tend to think in a strength level way or a strength quality way, or what weight is on the bar. Those tend to be the things that we think about. I think here we're thinking a little bit more about muscular action and creating specific muscular fatigue. And then, you know, the other part of body composition is driving up metabolic demand. Yeah. So I think both those things are going to be kind of really important and big focuses of the next training phase.
It's not just what happens in the gym, it's the effect that it has on your physiology outside of the gym as well.
Well, so, any adaptation happens outside of the training, right? The training is the stimulus, the adaptation happens during the rest. And this is even more so because people love this feeling, but people are going to be sore as shit, like 100%. And they're going to feel tired because there's just like the hour is going to be action packed because volume means you're getting a lot of work in, like kind of by its very nature. So yeah, certainly like factors outside of the gym are going to be critical. I mean,
there will be a lot more reps than we had in our power phase. A lot more focus on the mechanical tension in the muscle.
Yep.
So actually driving and engaging activation of the muscle fibers themselves in each rep.
Yeah. There's no like, if you're breaking during sets, if you're resting at the top of your squat, then you're not getting it correct. Then you've gone too heavy or you're not putting the right attention in. This is like constant mechanical tension on the muscles, really trying to move at like a specific pace, and trying to just engage the muscle for the entire set. I would say that's like a little bit more of a focus rather than like the weight on the bar.
It seems like a huge shift from the last phase. Do you see any areas where working power and speed would carry over into what we're doing on any level?
Yeah. I think every strength quality and every energy system feeds another. So I think the thing with power is you've learned how to move weights fast. You've learned how to add specific tempos to the bar. And I think that kind of understanding and that basic knowledge will transfer over here, even though the tempos that you're moving at will be different. I think probably the weights that we used will not be like remarkably dissimilar because we're not going to go like very super heavy weights.
It's kind of some carryover in using the particular types of loading parameters that we've been using.
Yeah.
Doing it in a different way, but the weights themselves being pretty consistent.
Yeah. I mean, I think the easiest way to see this concept is if you talk about strength and hypertrophy. Like strength athletes train hypertrophy or like muscle building because the bigger the muscle, the more force the muscle can
impose.
Yeah, impose and the more weight you can lift, and then vice versa. The stronger you are, the more weight you can lift for more reps, and the more hypertrophy you can get. So like it's an easy way of seeing how they feed each other and why like a strength athlete will have a hypertrophy phase because it's their easiest road to adaptation, and it just trains different things that serve the other. So every strength quality serves another that's kind of a close relative to it. Like it's hard to see how power like feeds endurance, but there is a chain of command where that does happen over the long term.
I've got a practical example too. If you think of power athletes, like the most like powerful athletes on the planet, the sprinters, the cornerbacks, the wide receivers, they're ripped.
Yeah.
People that tend to be able to produce very high levels of power tend to have really great body composition. And I think there's an element in the conditioning as well. And the energy systems that we've been training in the power phase, when you're able to put out more in a short period of time, the effect that it has on your physiology after the training is like quite high, much higher. So like with I'm sure the thaws, the tests of heart and will that we do, the conditioning segments that we do are going to be slightly different. But over the last month, we've really been working at just our max out effort, being able to extend that max out effort into like longer efforts and longer periods of time. One, it makes you very sore. It imposes a lot on your physiology, but the adaptation from that type of training I've always seen and felt it's been very powerful on a body composition standpoint. Think of like 200 meter, 400 meter sprinters. They're just all ripped.
Yeah.
They just don't have any, their bodies are adapted to put out very high levels of effort in that kind of 1 to 2 minute period of time and then recover and do that again.
Yeah. I mean, I would almost guarantee you that they're doing, the best ones are the ones who are really well trained are doing this type of training at some point in their season. Probably not close to competition, but I would imagine
they're very adapted to this type of training. I would say.
For sure. Like their sprinters are doing hypertrophy training at some point in their training career and their training calendar. I almost guarantee it.
All right. Well, I'm Kyle and this is Dan.
We are the Fort.
We are the Fort. We take this seriously.
We do what works.
And if you like this content, if you enjoy it, send it to a friend. Please subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Yep. See you then.